Hi, and welcome to Getting Biblical, the show where I drink too much and talk about my favorite Bible stories. I am Matt Smith, your host, and thank you for joining us today. Alright, so welcome back to the show. I don't know about you at home. I've had a ridiculously crazy couple of weeks. Really, ever since Thanksgiving, it's just felt like a non-stop rush of working like 13-hour days at my job. We're kind of in our busy season. And just parties every weekend, like Friday night, Saturday night. There's someone else I know is throwing a different holiday party, either work related or otherwise. And just so it's been just a roller coaster of things. And even right now, as I'm saying these words, I've got about 12 hours before I'm supposed to be on a plane flying to Vegas for a couple days. I'm at the beginning of a 2-week-long vacation here at the end of the year, and I'm starting it off with a bang by going to Vegas. So I'm a little bit, to be honest, a little bit stressed. I've got laundry going. I've got to pack still. I've got to get all ready, and then try to record this episode, edit it, and then put it up so that it can launch on Sunday morning. So yeah, I got a little bit on my plate. So. Obviously, you don't need to know all of my personal business like that, but all that to say that this episode is going to be a little bit shorter than the last few ones have been, and maybe a couple of you are happy about that. Maybe keep it a little tighter, but it's still it's a great story, an interesting story. We're talking about, real quick also, a little bit of a trigger warning for those out there. The episode is going to deal with the topic of rape, which I know has been pretty consistent lately, but that's not my fault. That's just how the stories go. However, with this story, there's a really great, I don't know if justice is the right word, but definitely avenging or revenge. As far as the rapists don't get away with it, which is fantastic, which is great, and something that I wish was happening more in the United States today. But not trying to start any social commentary at this point on that. But so that's the story that we're gonna be dealing with, and excited to be talking about it. So as always, before we begin, I'm going to talk about what I'm drinking. So last week, on my way home from work, after working like 14 hours or whatever that day, I stopped by my favorite liquor store that is very easily accessible on my way home. It is on my path home and very easy to just slide in real quick, grab something, and then be on my way without making any U-turns or anything cumbersome. And so I park and I go in to just grab a little something, and I realize that the whole place, this whole strip mall liquor store that used to have, just boxes thrown about and just floor to ceiling bottles everywhere, they had revamped, and it was much cleaner and much roomier and spaced out, and they got new shelves in and everything, and it looked much nicer. But it was a little bit of a shock. You're used to kind of the almost like bodega, or that style of just like there's booze everywhere, and try not to break any while you're walking down the aisles, and so that kind of shook me up a little bit. So the story behind that is that the liquor store had been bought out by new owners, and they were revamping the store and doing stuff, and that was the reason for the change. But with all of this, they decided to redo their inventory and get rid of a bunch of stuff that they didn't think that they needed anymore. They weren't planning to carry in their store any longer. So they had 3 shelves of, and I lucked out in this regard, they had 3 shelves of whiskey and bourbon. No scotch, unfortunately, but I'll take what I can get. Whiskey and bourbon for $10 a bottle, which is an amazing price. Nothing was like super fancy or super like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have this. But they're still like $30 bottles generally, and to get them for $10 was an absolute steal. So I grabbed up one of each of the different ones they had. It looked interesting to me. I left the stuff in plastic bottles alone. I didn't touch those. But the nicer things things that I wanted to try or just piqued my interest, grabbed those. So I got 6 bottles for $60, which is an amazing price. And so today is the first night that I'm busting one of those open. So bought it on a whim, bought it because it was on clearance, and trying it out. And so today, for today's bottle, we have one called, the brand is American Born. It's a bourbon whiskey. It's kind of cool. They have the logo. I don't know if this is part of no, I don't think it's part of the NRA, but it's the snake, the coiled snake that says "Don't tread on me." I know I've seen it on bumper stickers a lot in the South here, and I don't know quite the full tie-in to the logo there, but it's on the bottle. What's the wording? It's part of the bottle. It's not a label. It's not a sticker. It is part of the bottle. It's in the glass. The "Don't Tread on Me" it even has the letters "Don't Tread on Me" and the snake, and so that's pretty cool. And the bottle, I guess, the company was originally did American Born, the brand. They did moonshine, legal moonshine. And they got bought out and decided to make their own, take that moonshine and basically put it in a barrel and to make bourbon whiskey, which is kind of how the process goes. And it's not bad. It's actually pretty good, especially at $10. It's really good for $10. It's neat. It's actually 83 proof, and supposedly it says on their website and on the bottle that they chose the 83 proof to coincide with 1783 and the Revolutionary War and the independence of our country and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know how it works, if they have the science to specifically make it 83 proof so that it coincides with that, or it just came out as 83 proof and they decided to just roll with it as a marketing thing. I don't know how that works exactly, but I like it. I'm into it. Go America. So American Born Bourbon Whiskey, 83 proof. Don't Tread on Me. It's really great. It's actually it's like moderately like harsh, or kind of like it'll hit you a little bit, but it's not bad. I've had much worse. It's and with a little bit of ice, a little bit of water, really opens it up. I'm actually for $10 especially, and even a little bit more, it's really great. I'm sure it'll also be awesome with like mixing it with something else, Coke or whatever you might want to do. So anyway, that was a pleasant surprise for a $10 purchase off the clearance rack for under new management liquor store. And that's what I'm drinking today. So now that we're done with that, we can get on to the topic at hand on Bible stuff. So we finished up with the 12 sons of Israel are finally all born, and they're all here. We've got Reuben and Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, and Joseph, and Benjamin, right? All 12. And of course, their one sister, Dinah. So the 12 boys, the one girl. And this is the story that we're talking about here, comes into play right after Jacob reunites with his brother Esau. And they kind of go back to have their little family reunion over by Esau's house, but because Jacob has too many flocks, and his speckled flocks, because he has too much stuff, he can't just go move back in with his brother. He's got to make his own space. So he goes to a nearby village, nearby town, where the king of that place, Hamor, Hamor sold Jacob a plot of land near their city so they could have all his flocks and he could kind of live there. So it wasn't in the city, but it was nearby. And so they're still, he's reconnecting with his brother and all that kind of stuff. But so Dinah, and I don't know exactly how old she is at this point, but one day decides to have like a girls' day or girls' night out. And she gets some of her friends or whatever, I guess, and they go out into the nearby city. They go out into Hamor's city. And I don't know if this was like a Thursday night, girls, ladies' night, go get some drinks, or if it was just Starbucks and hot yoga day, or what else? I don't even know what else women do when they're together like that, or who knows, something along those lines. She went out with her friends, and while she was out, she meets this guy Shechem, and now Shechem, he finds her attractive. He likes her, and he, as the Bible puts it, takes her and rapes her. He has his way with her, with poor Dinah. And come to find out, push come to shove, we learn that Shechem is the son of Hamor, the king or whatever of that little town. So he's the prince of the town. So talk about like the rich kid, the privileged kid with the powerful father going around raping girls and not having repercussions, right? This is a prime example of that. But, however, a little bit, that we find out that the Bible says, and I kind of like this line, if it wasn't a horrible situation, horrible sense, it says that Shechem's soul joined to her, which I guess just means like he fell in love with her. Like, yes, he raped her, but it wasn't just a quick one and done. He fell in, like, madly in love with her. He was enamored with her and really, really, really wanted to marry her after this. Like I know I can hear your eye rolls and you're like what the hell's wrong with this guy? That's not how this works. But so he goes to his dad Hamor, the privileged, rich king or whatever, the little town, and he's like, Dad, I gotta be with her, I gotta marry her, like, what, like, we gotta make it happen, like get your lawyers, like, we gotta work this out. And so his rich dad gets his lawyers, and they go to Jacob to try and work out a deal. So he comes up to Jacob, he goes out to the plot of land that he had sold Jacob, and he goes out and visits him. And Jacob knows about the rape. He knows about what happened, and he's not happy at all. But he's trying to keep his cool, not to escalate the situation, and at least hear Hamor out and hear what he has to say as he's approaching. Now, that was Jacob's attitude. Dinah's brothers, Jacob's sons, did not have the same restraint or the same. They weren't trying to keep it cool. They were pissed. They wanted to avenge their sister and were not okay with any of it, and rightfully so, right? So, but Jacob kind of like told him to chill a little bit on it, and so Hamor rolls up and he's like, hey, like, so this happened, this bad thing happened, but my son really loves your daughter, like, he really loves her. What do we need to do to get these two crazy kids together? Like, what do we need to do to make this marriage happen? He's like, I think it's gonna be a great plan. They can get married, and then our family will be joined to your family, and we can trade, and we can be best friends, and we can have family reunions and all that, and just like, he wants to make it a big deal, sweep everything under the rug, and just now have a prosperous future together, and just totally bypassing the whole, like, fact that rape happened. And Jacob's not feeling it. He's not about it. He's like, no, like, this, a bad thing happened. I'm not okay with this. This is not how this works. And Hamor comes back, and he's just like, come on, like, let me make it right. Why should, a few minutes of action or whatever, like, ruin my son's life? Give him a little slap on the wrist and then let him get married. Like, no big deal. And again, Jacob's like, no way. This is not how this works. This is horrible. He needs to get in trouble, not marry her. I'm not gonna let my daughter marry the man that raped her or whatever. That's a bad way to go about business. So, a bad way to go about things. And it's really just a human piece of shit, these people. But anyway, so Jacob stays quiet for a minute. He's just kind of like, he's not saying yes, but he's just like, whatever. Hamor again, is like, we gotta make it happen. Let them get married. He's like, what will it cost? What will it cost to have this happen? Like, are you looking for a payout? What are you doing? Like, I don't know if he thought they was trying to, like, get, like, not bribe money, but get, trying to, like, up the stakes a little bit or whatever. And Jacob doesn't come back with anything, because he doesn't. That's not what he's for. He's not trying to get a payday out of it. Like, he just doesn't want anything to happen. But his sons speak up. They chime in and they say, "Hey man, we can't give you our sister. We can't give you Dinah to marry your son, because also the whole, like, we're gonna, like, the two families are gonna be together. We're gonna trade with each other. Like, we can't make these dealings. We can't do all that, because you and your people, your whole kingdom, y'all are not circumcised. And we don't deal with people that aren't circumcised. We only intermarry with circumcised people. That's our custom. That's how our family does it. So unless you're willing to circumcise you and your son and everyone in the kingdom, you need to get out of our house. You need to leave. That's the deal. That's the deal." And I can only assume that at that point they were thinking that Hamor would be like, "Oh, well, very nice talking to you. Have a great life. Sorry about the rape. Bye." And then go about his day, because that's a pretty tall request, pretty big thing to ask for, right? To circumcise the whole town. But much to their surprise, he comes back and he's like, "Sounds like a fair deal. I really want to make this happen. I really want my son to be happy with this girl, and live happily ever after." So they agree, and Hamor's like, give me 24 hours. Let me go. I'm gonna go back home, and we're gonna get everybody circumcised, and we'll come back, and we'll get Dinah, and they'll get married, and it'll be great. It'll be great. And I don't know if they just like all like the whole family, the 12 brothers, like just jaws hit the floor or what when like they so readily agreed to this. But anyway, so Hamor goes back and he goes to his son. He's like, great news. Like I scored you the wife or whatever. Like we got this. Like it's a done deal. You're gonna get married to her. We're gonna have a big ceremony. It's gonna be awesome. By the way, run real quick. You gotta cut off part of your dick. Like you gotta cut off the tip of it. But Shechem didn't care. Like it said, what was it? What was the verse? Oh, his soul joined to her, which is a nice, like cute, like romantic term. If it didn't come from act of rape, like otherwise anybody else, any other like consenting relationship, it's a very sweet thing to say. Anyway, but so he's like super into her. And whatever, he's like, whatever, I don't care, let's do it. So I imagine it like when it's flu season and like you can just go to your local like Walgreens and there's like lines of people up to go get their flu shots, every fall or whatever it is. And I just what I imagine, like there's just a decree that goes out and everybody in the village has to get circumcised, and you just have to go to your there's just lines at the door, like you gotta go to your local Walgreens and get circumcised in order for these two kids to get married. Just ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous. That's the mental image that I have anyway. And so, but the whole town does it. The whole town, they all get circumcised. They don't fight back. They don't say this is absurd. I don't want to get circumcised so that the prince can get married to some girl or whatever. Like, doesn't seem like a fair trade, but they do it. Everybody goes along with it. Maybe it's because of the dad's, rich lawyer friends or whatever. They made a marketing campaign or something and convinced everybody to do it. I don't know how it works, but everyone gets circumcised. And then, as you can imagine, as I imagine, I don't know this from personal experience, but I can only imagine that being circumcised as an adult is not fun. It's painful. And I've had my wisdom teeth taken out, and it took about 3 days for me not to be high on meds and in pain and anything anymore. I can only imagine what circumcision is and how long that takes for you to get back to 100%. So on the third day after the whole city gets circumcised, right? The Black Friday of circumcisions, the whole town. But there's this third day while everyone is recovering and they've got bandages on their crotches and everything, and they're like ice packs, right? They're laid up in bed, the whole town. While this is happening, two of Dinah's brothers, Simeon and Levi, they grab swords and they just run rampant through the city. They just start kicking in doors and murdering all the dudes in the city. I don't know if they started with them, but they kill Hamor, they kill his son Shechem, especially Shechem, and he's the rapist. They kill both of them and just every other dude in the city. They leave the women and the children, but every dude they just murder, and they can't fight back because they just got circumcised 3 days ago, and it's horrible, but also like ingenious, and like what a great plan. Like that's the only way to like tip that. You couldn't have two guys take on a whole city all by themselves unless you play the odds in your favor, which they did. And I don't know if this is what they wanted to do at the beginning when they suggested the idea, but they definitely knew how to take advantage of the situation. I just mean like these guys just throughout the city, just everywhere, just laying in their beds, like I said, with ice packs and bandages on. These guys just kicking in doors and stabbing them, and then on to the next one. Just ran through the town. Just a bloody massacre, just absolutely horrible. But also, I respect it. Just the strategy of it all, I respect. And so they do all that, and then there's a little bit afterwards where they realize now all the guys are dead, and they don't want anything to go to waste, so they just start plundering. They take all the jewelry and all their livestock and their TVs and their Xboxes, right? And anything they wanted, their handguns, whatever. They just start pillaging and taking everything, which is not a normal thing that any of the Israelites do. Like that's not their MO generally. But it was first revenge for the rape, and then you just pile it on top of it, I guess, and they just took everything. But then their dad Jacob finds out about it, and he realizes what happens and what they did, and he can't. I mean, at this point, he can't do anything. The deed has been done. The whole city of all these men are dead, and I don't know. So real quick, there's not really big evidence that this town was as bad as like Sodom and Gomorrah that we talked about or anything like that. Clearly, there's some issues here where the prince's son, raped a girl, and no one bothered, to worry about it. But that sucks. But I don't know as a whole how many of these other guys in the city were more or less innocent and everything. So yeah, kind of a bad thing. But anyway, so Jacob kind of scolds him a little bit. And he's like, "That wasn't cool, sons. That wasn't okay. You can't just go and like trick people into circumcision and then kill them all. An act of revenge. Like you can't. There were innocents in the scope in the line." So but Simeon and Levi, they come back and they retort with, "What should we have done? Let them treat our sister like a prostitute?" And that is where the chapter ends. Jacob doesn't give a reply. He doesn't come back and like, "Oh, here's what you should have done." Just like end of sentence, mic drop, dunzo. Like hold that. I think it's great. I think it's amazing. So, what they did wasn't 100% righteous, totally perfect, without blame. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna say? Should they have, what should they have done? Let them treat our sister like a prostitute? So that's the story of the time that they turned circumcision into a weapon. Weaponized circumcision from Levi and Simeon. I think it's, aside from the rape, it's a great fun story. It's a stupid sentence. I take it back. There's one other neat point that I wanted to bring up. So not related to the story, but just in the past in general, something that I was thinking about the other day. So I've kind of talked a little bit about in the past about the patriarch of the Bible and the patriarchy, and how women sometimes don't get the fair shake of when, like the buy one get one free on the wife deal with Laban and just other stuff, and when Rachel and Leah were giving their husband Jacob, their slave girls to have more babies, and that type of thing, and this that kind of doesn't sit real well with you in 2018. That kind of treatment of women and slavery and slave girls and whatever, that type of thing, I can't really speak to a lot. But as far as the women thing, one cool kind of neat part to talk about or to point out that I think is interesting is that even though there is the patriarchy in a lot of these stories, and a lot of the main characters that we follow in these stories, a lot of them do discuss stuff with their wives. Like they talk about things, and I'll try to do better about really highlighting them, but maybe I kind of glance over them or don't really go into detail. But a lot of them, they do sit down with their wives. They don't just demand or tell them. Oh, like when Jacob was leaving Laban and he went to his wives and were like, I think we should leave. What do you think? And they were like no, like our dad gave us both to you, so yeah, we should definitely leave. So that was kind of that's like one little thing. Like they don't. It's not that they don't get a say. They get to talk to their husbands. They have a voice. But also too, one of the coolest things I think is that if you look at all these, and I definitely glossed over this, but whenever, most of the time, the vast majority of the time in the Bible that I've noticed, when a baby is born, the wife, the mother, gets to name the baby, right? So even though there's the patriarchy, the mother gets to name the baby. So she's got to say, if this is going to be a lineage, a great line of people that come from this child, she's the one that gets to name it. And I think that's a neat thing. I don't know how that plays into other cultures and by today's standards or whatever. I don't know how it works exactly, but I'm used to, like in America here, where when the husband and wife get married and the wife takes the husband's last name in general customs or whatever, it's kind of the way it's been. So this idea of the mother, just outright giving the baby the name, and the father doesn't have input. He doesn't say anything. I think that's cool. I think it's neat. Also, there's another side point where I can't remember at what part this is, but the slave girl that Rachel had given to Jacob, Bilhah, I think her name was. When Bilhah passed away, it goes through and actually specifies that when she passed away, Jacob, he buried her at like a ceremony, and he constructed a pile of stones to make a grave for her, and he like named the place in remembrance of her. You know, he loves naming places. He loves setting up stone structures and naming things. But they did a whole thing, like they really point out like that it. Like they didn't just like gloss over when she passed away. I think no, that's not true. But so it's cool. So even though she was originally like a servant girl, she gave him children, and he, I don't know how the whole life was, but at least in death, like he respected her and made her a gravesite and named it and everything. And it's kind of one of those points that like why was it important for them to bring it up? Why was that even written in there? Other than just to show her honor and whatever. So I don't know. It's just a neat little thing, and that not saying that it's all fair in the Bible and the treatment of women and everything, but there's a couple nice little spots in there, and we're gonna get in the future to some other really awesome badass women of the Bible also. So anyway, that's about my story. That's about my time. Like I said, it's a short episode, but I think I heard the dryer go off, so I need to go do laundry and pack. So we'll be back next week. I'm planning on, if it all works out, next week doing a special Christmas episode for you guys. So stay tuned for that, and we will talk to you then. Hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you for tuning in. Cheers.